Abandoned and betrayed, Naomi found herself living in a rusted van. But what she discovered hidden beneath its corroded shell would change her life forever, leaving her in-laws speechless when Naomi stood amidst the somber, hushed crowd, the damp earth beneath her feet, mirroring the ache in her heart. Her husband's coffin was lowered, and a chilling drizzle began to fall. Yet it was the coldness in her in-laws' eyes that truly pierced her. There they stood, devoid of tears, their faces like stone, their black attire a cruel mockery of mourning. Naomi, 7 months pregnant and clutching her 10-year-old son, Isaiah, felt the world tilt. She'd always known they disapproved. From the moment she married their son, through years of building their flower business from a tiny backroom to a bustling downtown shop. But this was a new depth of cruelty. Whispers like venomous insects buzzed around her. Such a tragedy so young. But his family, she won't last a month. Not with him. The words, meant to be discreet, found Naomi's ears, twisting the knife further. She just held Isaiah tighter, his small hand a lifeline in her own. Her shoes were already soaked, but the cold seeping into her bones was nothing compared to the dread of what was to come. Surely, her beloved husband had protected her in his will. The lawyer's office, with its polished wood and old paper scent, offered a deceptive warmth. Naomi sat, Isaiah nestled close, as the lawyer began to read her husband's last wishes. The house, the thriving floral business, even his beloved old van, all were hers. A wave of relief washed over her, a fragile hope blooming in her chest. But then, a sharp, cutting laugh from her sister-in-law shattered the peace. "Oh no, that's not how this is going to work." Naomi blinked, confused. Her father-in-law leaned in, his voice dripping with contempt. "The house and business are family property. You married into it. You don't own it. The only thing you get is that worthless van. You should be grateful we're even letting you have that." The lawyer protested, but the old man's voice, a barely contained snarl, cut him off. "Want to fight, Naomi? Go to court. See how far a pregnant woman with no money gets." Isaiah's small fingers dug into her palm, and Naomi felt a dizzying wave of nausea. Her mouth opened, then closed. No, not here, not now. They wanted a fight on their terms, and she knew their ruthless power all too well. Just 15 minutes later, she was out in the relentless drizzle, the cold van keys a mocking weight in her hand, their laughter echoing behind her. Isaiah kept looking up, his young eyes pleading, hoping she'd say it was all a terrible dream. But Naomi remained silent, each step heavy with the crushing reality that her life, their lives, had just plunged into uncharted, perilous waters. She ran her hand over the van's side, rust flaking off like dead skin. It reeked of stale rain and old oil. This derelict thing was all she had. A strange, fierce resolve ignited within her. "Fine," she thought, "if this is all they've left me, I'll make it enough." The van sat under a sickly leaning lamppost, its paint blistered and eaten by rust. A back door sagged, defeated. The driver's mirror was a sad testament to duct tape. When she pulled open the door, a suffocating wave of stale air, mildew and a faint metallic tang assaulted her senses. Isaiah clambered in, his little fingers tracing the cracks in the vinyl seat. "Mom, we're not really living here, are we?" His voice, so small, so hopeful, tore at her heart. Naomi couldn't answer, her eyes fixed on the dusty dashboard, a ghost of her husband's fingerprints still visible in the grime. That night, tucked away in an empty lot behind a hardware store, the hum of streetlights and distant traffic became their lullaby. Naomi wrapped Isaiah tight in a blanket, then squeezed herself onto the narrow back bench. It was awkward with her belly, but they were out of the rain. Footsteps passed outside, muffled voices drifting through the window. "That's the Carter widow, right?" "Yeah, heard she lost everything. In-laws took it all. She was always too proud, never begged. Guess she will now." Naomi's jaw tightened. A baby kick jolted her. "No time to break," the tiny movement seemed to say. The next morning, the biting chill woke her. She found a worn sweater in her small suitcase. Isaiah was still curled up, as if bracing against the world. She kissed his forehead, then stepped out into the gray dawn. No home, no business, no safety net, Just a rusty van and a burning resolve. She didn't know it then, but this battered shell held a secret far beyond its apparent worth. Days bled into a harsh rhythm. Day-old bread from the corner store. Hours spent scanning bulletin boards, desperate for any work, cleaning, hauling, even arranging flowers for mere coins. The van became their sanctuary, a tiny, vibrating island in a sea of uncertainty. Isaiah drew stick figures on the condensation-streaked windows, little hands joined together. Naomi, her own hands busy wiping surfaces, shifting boxes, worked tirelessly to transform the cramped space from a tomb into a semblance of home. It was during one of these relentless cleaning sessions that her life irrevocably shifted. Scrubbing a stubborn patch of rust near the back door, her sponge snagged. Flakes of rust peeled away, revealing a sliver of metal beneath. But it wasn't dull steel. It was warm, dense, almost glowing in the dim light. She frowned, her thumb tracing its impossibly smooth surface. Pushing harder, more brittle rust crumbled, exposing a wider gleam. And then, bathed in a sliver of sunlight, she saw it. Not paint, not metal, it was the color of wealth, of eternity. Gold. She stumbled back, her heart hammering not with wild joy, but a quiet, almost fearful caution. Her husband's voice echoed in her memory, "That van's our safety net." She'd always dismissed it as sentimental rambling. Now, pressing her palm against the panel, its unexpected weight confirmed the impossible. The realization dawned slowly, like a sunrise. It would change everything. Yet, she didn't scream, she didn't even smile. She simply picked up the sponge, wiped the flakes from the floor, and whispered, "Not yet." This wasn't just a find, it was a secret, and secrets, she knew, were safest when held close. Naomi moved with deliberate calm. Every day she acted as if the gold didn't exist. Its invisibility was its greatest protection. She started small. One weekend, she carefully pried a narrow strip from the inside of the rear door, just enough to slip into her pocket. She sold it to a quiet jeweler across town, one who asked no questions. The money, more than she'd earned in months, enough for fresh clothes for Isaiah, prenatal vitamins, and full unrationed meals. After a second sale, she had enough for a tiny corner stall at a bustling street market. It was humble, but with second-hand vases and wholesale flowers. Naomi's hands, once stiff from the van's cold nights, remembered the artistry she'd perfected for years in the shop her husband had helped build. People noticed, "Who's the new florist? She has such an eye," one passerby murmured. "Isn't that Carter's widow?" Another replied, "I thought she was living in a van." The whispers no longer stung, they fueled her. She arrived before dawn, stayed past dusk, reinvesting every coin into better blooms, better tools, better display. All the while, the worthless van sat silently, an unassuming rust bucket, hiding a king's ransom. Meanwhile, across town, her in-laws choked on their own avarice. The businesses they'd so cruelly seized withered under their ineptitude. Orders went unfilled, bills mounted, and rumors of crushing debt swirled. Naomi heard it all, sometimes from customers in her own burgeoning stall. "Did you hear? The Carters can't pay their suppliers." Figures, they never worked a day in their lives. Naomi never commented. She just smiled faintly, arranging lilies and roses, the sweet fragrance of blossoms, masking the quiet, profound satisfaction blooming in her chest. Because she knew deep down, that gold wasn't the only thing that could grow in silence. Power could too. By the time her baby girl was born, the little market stall had blossomed into a sunlit corner shop, adorned with a vibrant green awning, and a name painted in elegant gold script, Isa and Rose, a beautiful tribute to her two children. Inside, the air hummed with the rich scents of lilies, peonies and fragrant eucalyptus. Customers flocked to her, not just for the stunning flowers, but for the warmth Naomi exuded. She remembered names, anniversaries, quietly tucking a sprig of baby's breath into every bouquet for love. Her in-laws' downfall was no longer a whisper, it was front-page news. Carter Floral Chain declares bankruptcy. Carter family home listed for immediate sale. Naomi read the headlines, her face calm, but a deep, unyielding sense of justice settled within her. The empire they'd stolen had crumbled beneath their own monstrous arrogance. One afternoon, as she carefully wrapped a bouquet for a young bride, the shop door creaked open. Her father-in-law stood there, a gaunt shadow of his former self, his suit threadbare. Behind him, her sister-in-law, stripped of her haughty air, looked utterly defeated. "Naomi," he began, his voice barely a whisper, a stark contrast to his past booming cruelty. "We've fallen on hard times. The house is gone, the business too. We need a place to stay." Just until, Naomi kept her hands moving, tucking a final piece of eucalyptus into the bouquet, its soft leaves brushing her fingertips. She didn't look up until the ribbon was tied. "I remember," she said, her voice soft but firm, finally meeting their desperate gaze. "The day you told me that van was all I deserved, that my children and I deserved nothing good." Her eyes, devoid of anger, held the same measured calm she used to choose which flowers to trim, which to let flourish. Her sister-in-law's gaze flickered from the gold-lettered sign of Isa and Rose, to the gold-plated pen Naomi held. Realization, it dawned on her face, a sickening dawning of truth. Naomi slid the finished bouquet across the counter to the eager bride. "I'm afraid I don't have room," she said, her voice gentle, yet unyielding. "Some things are simply too small to hold the weight of people who once tried to break them." They left without a word, the little bell above the door chiming a final poignant punctuation. Naomi exhaled, a slow, deep breath. It wasn't revenge that filled her, it was pure, unadulterated freedom. As evening light painted the shop windows in hues of warm gold, Naomi sat at the counter, her newborn daughter sleeping peacefully beside her, Isaiah sketching contentedly across from them. She glanced at the old van parked outside, still in its original spot. Rusted, quiet, unassuming, no one would ever guess its battered shell had changed everything. The gold had given her a chance, yes, but it wasn't just the precious metal that had built this life. It was her unwavering choice to keep moving, to work tirelessly when quitting would have been easier, to transform bitterness into something that could bloom. She often thought of her husband, knowing he must have foreseen this, leaving her the one thing they could never truly steal. She pictured him, arms folded, that familiar quiet pride in his eyes. Naomi brushed a stray petal from the counter, and surveyed her beautiful shop, inhaling the sweet green air. She didn't need the stolen mansion, the ruined businesses, or even the family name. She had roots now, deep and steady, and they were her own. When customers sometimes asked about the old van, she'd smile, a secret warmth in her eyes, and simply say, "Oh, it's just part of the story." Because the truth was, gold could hide in the most unexpected, ugliest places. And the people who laughed at your worth often had no idea they were handing you the very key to your own magnificent freedom.